Thank God I already had my matchup locked up and I did not have to rely on a Mr. Josh Allen, because in this first game we will look at, Josh Allen really didn't have much going. Obviously, the final drive, you get the long rush, then he throws the pick. But it looked like the Buffalo Bills offense just had a very difficult time moving the ball down the field. Now, I have Josh Allen on my own fantasy team, and I'm going to go out there and panic and say, oh, crap, no, Josh Allen's no longer the QB1. No, Josh Allen still gives you an incredibly high ceiling as a rusher. Like, even in this game where the Bills offense struggles, he has 42 rushing yards, a lot of that coming in the fourth quarter. And even in this game, he had multiple passing touchdowns, like a horrendous performance from Josh Allen. He's still giving you something, right? Like, we can go ahead and we can look at what Josh Allen had done coming into this contest. Let me just pull this up on the site real quick. We can actually see that Josh Allen coming in here had given us 38.8, 11.8, 23, 25, and 19.5. He had been averaging, oh, okay, that's going to be mixed in because it's actually giving you this game's performance as well. But still, he had been averaging about 22, 23 points per game. He had still been the QB1 in fantasy coming into this before Mahomes blew up yesterday. We'll talk about that in a later video. But regardless, with Allen, I'm still going to have him as my QB1 rest of season. I don't feel the need to change much there. We did move Patrick Mahomes up to the third quarterback in our rest of season ranks. He keeps performing the way that he has. He could eventually flip Allen. It's just difficult because we have such a large sample from Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson running the ball like crazy. Now, going over and looking at what we have with James Cook. James Cook doesn't give you the rushing touchdown, which is a surprise because we can essentially pencil that in from James Cook almost every single week, right? Like, we go over and look at what James Cook has managed to do, not only this year, but going back to last season as well. James Cook was averaging a rushing touchdown per game coming into this contest. And you go back and you look at what he did last season, he had 16 rushing yards in 16 games. So am I changing my mind on James Cook here where we had him as the RB5? And maybe I move Josh Jacobs ahead of him. One, because I have Josh Jacobs on my own fantasy team and I'd like to see my team go higher in the power rankings on the site. Obviously a joke, but mainly because I guess Jacobs is leapfrogging James Cook already in points per game in a full PPR format because Allen can run the ball. He's not checking the ball down very often to Cook. So because James Cook doesn't have the receiving usage and because James Cook at the same time, I'm not going to fault him too hard for not having touch, mainly because he's not getting involved as a receiver as much as he had. I think we moved James Cook down to our RB7 in our rest of season rankings, but still we're going to have Achane at 4, Jacobs at 5, and Gibbs at 6. And yeah, I understand Gibbs at 6 is a drop compared to where we used to have him, but look, Jahmyr Gibbs averaging 17.2 points per game, nowhere close to any of the other running backs inside these top 3 tiers. So we're still giving Gibbs the benefit of the doubt with that ranking. It looks like Ray Davis is just nothing. So if you had Davis, just go ahead and drop him. Now going over to the wide receiver. So Joshua Palmer didn't even play at the beginning of the game. Obviously, it's not like Joshua Palmer is all of a sudden somebody you can pick up off the waiver wire. It's not like all of a sudden Joshua Palmer is interesting in the slightest. He has 60 receiving yards, but who cares? He only had 2 targets. Khalil Shakir, they just could not get the ball to. Dawson Knox get the receiving touchdown. I know Ray Davis gets the receiving touchdown, but frankly, James Cook still has absolutely everything as a rusher here. I'm not interested in anybody in Buffalo because Keon Coleman looks horrible. They spread the ball out to so many players. Hopefully you get Kincaid back this next week. The only guys that you start here are going to be Josh Allen, James Cook, and then Kincaid when he is healthy. Now, let's move over and let's see what we have with the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Penix gets there from a box score perspective. Not going to lie, it seemed like just Bijan Robinson was putting this team on his back. Like, you had 210 rushing yards in this game. Then you combine the fact that Bijan himself and Tyler Algier go for over 70 receiving yards. So, like, 280 yards in this offense, the running backs took over for. So like Michael Penix, I'm not interested in fantasy. Michael Penix isn't going to run the ball at all. It doesn't seem like Michael Penix is that. It just looks like Bijan Robinson is that dude. Like Bijan Robinson in this game, he gets you 23 points as a rusher. Then you add on almost 13 points as a receiver. He gives you like 38 points. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. I think we have to do it. I think we have to put Bijan Robinson at number 1 rest of season in our rankings. We have not seen the same type of ceiling from McCaffrey this year that we just saw from Bijan Robinson. Yes, McCaffrey's receiving skill set is insane, but Bijan in this game has 8 targets. Bijan coming into this game as well had also been sitting here averaging almost 6 targets per contest. So now you add on the 8 targets that he had this week. That's going to go over 6 targets now. So I think Bijan is our running back 1 at this point. You sprinkle on the fact that he's already gone through his bye week as well. I think you have to run with it. And now, of course, I am an idiot and I get things wrong all the time. That's very public. Y'all call me out on it every single day, as y'all rightfully should. And I'm going to continue to get things wrong until the end of time because, again, see previous, I'm an idiot. But if y'all are allowed to call me an idiot and y'all are allowed to clown on me every chance y'all get, I can at least give it back somewhat. And a little comment stood out to me in the rankings video from earlier today. Here's some advice that I have for everybody here that wants to call me an idiot. At least wait until I was proven to be wrong. That may be your best call here. Or you're going to get shown in the live stream like this, where people were trying to clown on me for having Drake London ahead of Rome Odunze in my rankings. Like, London is that freaking dude. London, 158 receiving yards, 10 receptions, and the receiving touchdown as well. And what's crazy is, at the very end of the half, you came this close for it to be a second receiving touchdown. Drake London in this game almost dropped 40 fantasy points. Now, of course, he's out at the 1, time expires, so you're not able to actually get those, so you only have like 32 points. But regardless, Drake London, an absolute monster. Drake London's already through his bye week as well. I think at this point, the only wide receivers I would rather have in fantasy are going to be Lamb, Jefferson, St. Brown, Puka, and JSN. And obviously this Puka ranking is subject to change dependent on when we get more news. But I think at this point, I would rather have Drake London over Jamar Chase. Now, keep in mind as well with this game, you didn't have Darnell Mooney. So it's allowing Drake London to have 16 targets out of 32 pass attempts for Michael Penix. What's hilarious is Michael Penix threw the ball 32 times, and you had a total of 28 of those going to Drake London, Bijan Robinson, and Kyle Pitts. They were the only guys that he would look at. Like, this is a super concentrated offense. Now, once Darnell Mooney is back in, then all of a sudden, sure, it's going to be spread out a little bit more. We had Kyle Pitts as our tight end 10 in our rest of season ranks, inside the same tier with like Goddard, Kincaid, Hunter Henry, Travis Kelce. I'm honestly probably just going to be leaving him here. Like, I still think you probably start Kyle Pitts if you have him. It's just so difficult to project out those tight ends. And then I know Kelsey's been better than that, but my thing with Kelsey again is, yeah, Rashee Rice coming back in, but that's for another video. But I think we can go ahead and move over to the next game. I will again mention that Tyler Algier, you're never wanting to start him regularly, but if you were to get an injury to Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier would probably immediately prop up to be a top 15 running back in my rankings. I'm not going to say he'd be Rico Dowdle level good, but he'd be good enough where it means that you should roster Tyler Algier in pretty much every league. Now, let's go ahead and let's move to our next offense. This is going to be the Chicago Bears. And with the Chicago Bears, what was very interesting to note coming into this game is Caleb Williams had been great so far this season. Like if we go through and look at Caleb, I need to see who has him. Is it Danny? I think Danny may have him in our league. Let me pull this up. Yes, he does. Caleb Williams before the bye was sitting here averaging about 20 fantasy points per game. Now, he gave you a bunch of rushing production in the first week, and then he hadn't in weeks 2 through 4. But Caleb was averaging about 20 points per game. I still had him as about my QB 8 in fantasy. Still kind of like that option where obviously we want to roster him and we want to play him in good matchups, but not an absolute auto start. And Caleb in this game runs the ball even less in terms of the total yardage. You get -2 rushing yards from Caleb, but you get the rushing touchdown. And you go back to his time at USC, he was giving you 10 rushing touchdowns a game. He didn't have a single rushing touchdown in his rookie season, but obviously we were assuming that was going to regress. But Caleb Williams still remains like around that range of quarterbacks for me that I want to roster 2 of them. We'll play the matchups between the 2 weekly. That doesn't really change. Now, what does happen here is DeAndre Swift explodes. DeAndre Swift had remained a must-start running back for us, just given the fact that you had volume. But the issue that you had with DeAndre Swift is the efficiency hadn't been there. So every single week, you were looking at DeAndre Swift getting what? I want to say like 15 through 22 opportunities at the very minimum. Let me see if I can find who had DeAndre Swift in the Flock League. I don't exactly remember, but if we find that real quick, we can show you the exact stat line of Swift. I know it's not me. Maybe it's the fan wagon. We'll go ahead and we'll just show you. Of course, y'all can link your team with flockfantasy.com if you haven't already. And you can go through and you can see the power rankings of your stuff. I actually need to sort this by my own ranks. Let's see. Is it? Nope. Who the hell has Swift? Is it the dev team? It's the dev team here. And you look at DeAndre Swift coming into this game. DeAndre Swift had 12 carries at the very minimum in every contest. And every game he had at least 3 targets. So a very minimum baseline opportunity of 15 for Swift. The efficiency had been really bad, right? Like back-to-back games averaging fewer than 3 yards per carry. I mean, the yards per target was pretty damn low every single week outside of week 3 as well against Dallas because it was a great matchup. But you get the long receiving touchdown. DeAndre Swift looks great out there. And DeAndre Swift, yet again, you get 17 opportunities. It's like clockwork. But he shows us that you could actually get a potential spike, that he is not complete dust. The big play upside is somewhat there. So for me at this point, how the hell am I going to make an argument to have Alvin Kamara ahead of DeAndre Swift? How am I going to make an argument to have David Montgomery, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt? DeAndre Swift, I think, is going to be a running back 2 for me in my rest of season rankings. RB18, Kyle Monangai was out there a bit, but it's not like he was much. So I'm not super concerned about Monangai, to be honest. I will say, obviously, he is the handcuff running back in this backfield if you did want one. Now, one thing that we can talk about as we get over to the wide receivers here is if you lost in fantasy today, don't you worry. I got you. You can still be a winner this week. You want to know how you can be a winner this week? By taking advantage of the best offer that Underdog Fantasy has had in the 5 years that I've been working with them. If you go over to Underdog Fantasy right now and use promo code FLOCK, after you play your first $5, you are going to get $100 added into your account. And on top of that, you'll get a free pick for the Thursday night game. It's going to be like a Jaylen Warren, higher, lower, half a total yard for Thursday night. You can see some of the picks out there right now that they have. Metcalf, higher, lower, 64.5 total yards. It's going to be a really good game against the Cincinnati Bengals. But Underdog Fantasy is at the very top of the charts with sports apps at the moment. It's because this new user offer is so damn strong. Use code FLOCK and you will get both of those promos. And on top of that, you'll get free questions that you can ask me in the live stream. And I'm going to be live streaming every single day until Christmas. And Underdog Fantasy is available in almost every single state as well. But let's move this over to the wide receivers that we have in Chicago. So the actual points that Rome Odunze gives you, horrendous. Rome comes through. He has 5 targets, 2 receptions for 32 receiving yards. So I'm sure a lot of people are sitting here going like, oh, okay, I just need 9 points from Rome. I'm going to get it. And then I'll be able to go through and I'll be able to move to a 5-1. I'll be able to move to 4-2. I'll be able to move to 3-3. And then all of a sudden Rome face plants, even though through the first month of the year, he had actually given you at the very minimum 15 fantasy points every single week. So if you're looking at what we have with Rome, those first 4 weeks, I'm not going to try to diminish what he did. Absolutely incredible. But a lot of it was based off the receiving touchdowns. You had a receiving touchdown week 1, 2 receiving touchdowns week 2, the receiving touchdown week 3, the receiving touchdown week 4. Now, I will say in week 6, he actually almost had a receiving touchdown if it wasn't for the fact that it got called back, I believe, due to the illegal formation. But still, if you don't have the target floor for Rome, you're going to have a low floor from a fantasy points perspective. And now, if I'm looking at where he is in our rest of season ranks, I had Rome Odunze as our wide receiver 9. Realistically, I'm not going to move him down much. This is the continued trend, though, where he's not getting a ton of target volume. And I think Rashee Rice is going to get more target volume, and I think Rashee Rice is going to be in a better offense. So I'd probably move Rome behind Rashee Rice. I may consider moving George Pickens ahead of Rome as well, because realistically, like, George Pickens is kind of going to be touchdown reliant, but I do think there's going to be more passing volume in Dallas. The targets are spread out a ton in Chicago. You do have CeeDee Lamb that you're going to have to contend with going into the future. Again, I know we had the touchdown called back due to the illegal formation. I believe that was the penalty. But still, the target floor is going to be there for Rome. We can't just bank on Rome scoring a touchdown every single week. Rome's not going to end this season with 17 touchdowns. So I'm not going to do it just yet. I know for sure I'm going to move Rice ahead of him, but I may consider moving George Pickens ahead of him as well. Now, let's see if we have anything else to discuss. DJ Moore, not interesting. You'd hope he gets traded. Loveland does nothing. Cut him if you have him. Cut Komet if you have him. You're really starting DeAndre Swift. You're starting Rome Odunze. We'll talk about Luther Burden in the waiver wire video that come out tomorrow. But Luther Burden, not super interesting either. Start Caleb based on matchup. Start DeAndre Swift as an RB2. Start Rome Odunze as a high-end wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 1. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's move to our next offense. This next one's going to be the Commanders. So you have Jaden Daniels looking really good minus the mistakes. I don't know if you give the fumble at the end of the game on him or if that was Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Obviously weird weather, blah, blah, blah. But regardless, Daniels remains as an elite level quarterback in my rest of season ranks. We have Jaden Daniels as our QB5. Maybe you end up flipping him with Jalen Hurts now that we see that he is fully healthy. Because the thing with Daniels that I was a little bit worried about with him coming back from the injury is, did we just see the rush rate fall a bit? But in this game, he has 10 rush attempts. He has 52 rushing yards. So he's running the ball just as much as ever. And obviously in this contest, it looked like Deebo Samuel was not fully healthy with the heel injury. And we're going to assume that he gets healthier over time. We're going to assume that Terry McLaurin comes back to this offense at some point, and the overall Commanders offense will be better. Now, going over and looking at Bill Krosky-Merritt, if y'all remember, after week 1, right before Austin Eckler tore his Achilles, I traded away Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt in the Flock League to go ahead and get one Mr. Tony Pollard. Oh, Tony Pollard, my savior. The reason I'm 5-1 in my, obviously I'm joking. I am 5-1, but not because of Tony Pollard. But I was worried about Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt back then because I was like, okay, well, Austin Eckler's taking a bunch of work. We know that Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt doesn't profile to be a receiving back, so it's always going to be Eckler. But JCM has come through and he's proven he is going to be the first and second down RB. Now, of course, he's not going to get used as a receiver. You see that this week. He only had one target. It was a super boring thing. He just ran 5 yards, turned around, got it, fell right down. So JCM, like, he's going to be good if you score. He's going to be okay if he scores the touchdown. But if the touchdown's not there, he's not going to be great. So I know a lot of people, I mean, we could have pulled up the comment section in the running back rankings video as well, hated me for putting JCM at around RB21. I'm going to stand by this ranking because, again, the dude's not going to catch the ball. So he is kind of a touchdown or bust running back. I think very easily he can go up in these rankings. But for now, the floor is relatively low. Looking at the receivers, Chris Moore, not interesting. Do not pick him up. Jalen Lane, not interesting. Don't pick him up. Luke McCaffrey, not interesting. Don't pick up anybody here at wide receiver. Zach Ertz with Debo banged up, with Terry McLaurin banged up, looks like he's going to continue to be relevant. I had Zach Ertz coming into this game at tight end 15. Do I feel the need to move him over Darren Waller, move him over Harold Fannin with the David Njoku injury, move him over Kelsey? No, I'm going to just leave him here. Still very much somebody you can put into your starting lineup. I'm not going to be super excited to jam him in, though. And then looking at what we have with Deebo Samuel, it doesn't look like he's fully healthy. But still, with him not being fully healthy, I can't justify having him where we do in the rankings. Like, realistically, I don't know if I'm going to be excited to tell you to play Deebo next week. Especially if you end up getting, say, like Terry McLaurin back in. So I think we're going to move Deebo Samuel down. I think at this point, I would rather have Metcalf over him, to be honest. And I think we need to move Wilson down as well, given the news. I think I'd rather have Flowers over him with Lamar coming back most likely in week 8 after their bye. I think I'd rather have A.J. Brown ahead of Deebo at this point. I know A.J. Brown's been horrendous, but Deebo's banged up. Wilson's banged up. Quentin Johnson's banged up. I think I'd rather have a lot. I'm just going to move all the healthy wide receivers ahead of these injured guys until we actually see otherwise. Because something that I really want to hammer in on with these rest of season rankings and these videos as well is if a player just got injured this week, like Garrett Wilson as an example. And it's actually kind of funny right now, me dealing with like a bunch of people in the Flock League sending me offers of like these injured players telling me that I'm crazy, that I don't want to send Josh Allen, Josh Jacobs, and DK Metcalf for Puka Nacua. It's like, we're in week 7. If a player gets injured and they're going to miss, say, 3 to 4 weeks, hypothetically, not saying in the Puka case, I'm just saying in general across the board. If we're in week 7 and they're going to miss, say, 4 weeks, they miss weeks 7, 8, 9, 10, and then they play weeks 11, 12, 13, 14. So for the fantasy football regular season, that means they're missing half of it. So missing 4 games right now or being injured right now on October 13th is a much bigger deal than if you were going to miss 4 games coming into the season. Because those 4 games before week 1, it's a much smaller percentage of the remaining year that you actually have. Whereas if a player's missing 3 games, if they're missing 4 games right now, I want to severely knock them in the rankings in favor of the actual players that are healthy and producing. But I think that's all I have across the board in this. Last but not least, I will remind y'all, I'm going to be shipping out these hats this week. So I'm probably going to make the cutoff where if you have not filled out this freaking Google form by Friday, you're not getting a hat. But 2025 was our best year ever, and it wasn't even remotely close. So what we decided to do is we went through and spent more money on hats than I've ever spent money on anything in my entire life. I ordered 2,500 hats. Bunch of different designs, even more than this that are in the picture. There are more boxes on the way. And we are giving away these hats to y'all, members of the site, for free. I already bought them all. I'm going to be boxing them, shipping them myself with my fiance and my brother. The next 2 weeks, my house is going to turn into a hat factory. All you got to do is, if you are a paid member of the site, go over to the post page, fill out this free merch giveaway. I checked as of this morning, and we are up to 1,900 of y'all that have filled this out. Put your email address on flockfantasy.com. That way we can confirm that you are a paid member of the site. I'm not trying to collect your email. We already have it on flockfantasy.com. Why the hell would I be asking for it again? Give me your physical address so I know where to ship the hat. Include your name. I know a lot of y'all aren't including your name. It's going to make things difficult for us, but I'm not trying to collect your physical address. I promise you, I'm not mailing you freaking advertisements. This is literally just me trying to get back to y'all. I really appreciate all the support this year. And if we have leftover hats on that dining room table after we ship all this stuff out this week, I am telling you right now, the fiance may give me back the ring, and she may tell me that she has made a mistake. So please help me out, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead, fill out that Google form. Let me send you over free hats. I appreciate y'all hanging out with us in the chats. And I really hope I get to see you out with the live stream tomorrow.